The government hoped its fortunes would improve once the carbon tax details were revealed, but the second half of 2011 proved even more difficult for Labor. Tony Abbott continued his anti-tax crusade. Labor backbencher Craig Thomson ran into deep trouble over his former role as a union leader, and then the High Court delivered the heaviest blow, knocking out the government's Malaysia solution.
One of the most contentious and politically fraught policies in recent memory, the government's plan to price carbon, was finally unveiled.
I've knocked the brick wall down. This is going through. This is done. Full stop.
A tax on 500 of the highest carbon-emitting companies, with compensation for 9 out of the 10 households, will end up footing the bill.
More than 50% of the money paid by big polluters to provide assistance to households in the form of tax cuts and payment increases.
Millions of Australians will be worse off.
Julia Gillard promised to wear out her shoe leather to sell it, and as she hit the road...
We've got to get this done. I'm determined to do it. That's what's driving me.
Her opponent also set out to destroy it.
It's certainly going to hit the coal mining industry hard.
But as he attacked the logic of reducing emissions...
The other crazy thing about this, the Chinese are proposing to increase their emissions by 500%.
The man he replaced as leader spoke up.
They find those references incredibly galling. There appears to be a licence to reject our best scientists.
It's not his job to talk about the whole range of policies.
Wait a minute. Nobody has gagged me. I'm ungaggable.
Another replaced leader revealed he needed major heart surgery to replace a faulty aortic valve.
The docs have said, Kev, it's time for a new one. And so, being the obedient soul that I am, I've decided to take their advice.
And after months of negotiations, the refugee swap deal with Malaysia was finally signed.
It's an innovative arrangement. It rips the rug out from under the people smugglers' business model.
But it wasn't to be.
Scandal dropped on the government in August with allegations MP Craig Thomson used his union credit card to pay for prostitutes.
The reports yesterday and in the papers last night are completely untrue.
I've got full confidence in Mr Thomson.
The Labor Party admitted covering Mr Thomson's legal bills to prevent him going bankrupt. That would have forced him to resign and likely brought down the Gillard government.
She has got to give a full and candid account of her involvement in this rather grubby business.
If he says he didn't do it, I'm satisfied by that.
I don't see any prospect of an early poll.
Prompted by the opposition, police launched an investigation.
Senator Brandis ringing up his Liberal mate to ring up a police commissioner.
Mr Thomson resigned as chair of the parliamentary committee but clung on to his seat in Parliament. On lawns outside, protests against the carbon tax continued.
We do need an election.
As the convoy of no confidence was declared a fizzer,
the convoy of no consequence, Mr Speaker.
The organiser turned on reporters.
Where is he? Well, come on over here and explain yourself. Come on over and explain yourself. That's the fellow over there. Come on. Come on, get over here and explain yourself.
Then, on the final day of the month, a bombshell from the High Court.
Let's make no bones about it. Today's decision by the High Court is a profoundly disappointing one.
The ruling killed off the Gillard government's refugee deal with Malaysia, declaring it unlawful.
They have nowhere to turn and no one to blame other than themselves.
It's just one stuff up after another, Neil. That's the problem with this government.
September began with the government's asylum seeker plan in tatters.
The High Court's decision basically turns on its head the understanding of the law in this country.
So Julia Gillard tried to rewrite the law around the decision. For that, she needed the opposition's help.
This is a test for Tony Abbott. It is a test as to whether he is guided by the national interest.
But Tony Abbott slapped her down.
This is a government which this morning is almost dying of shame at its own incompetence.
The asylum seeker mess led to questions about the Prime Minister's leadership.
I'm doing this job because I am the best person to do it.
And rumours centred on Kevin Rudd.
You know something? I'm a very happy little Vegemite being Foreign Minister of Australia.
Labor MP Craig Thomson was cleared of fraud one day, back in hot water the next.
What about the credit card from Community Graphics? Did you actually receive one of that?
I'm making no comments. Now, that would seem at least to warrant serious investigation as to whether a crime has been committed.
And the carbon tax finally entered Parliament to cheers.
Order. Order. The debate must now be adjourned.
And anger.
The attendants will deal with the gully.
And as Europe sunk deeper into crisis, Treasurer Wayne Swan was riding high, named the world's best treasurer.
I see this award as being very much a tribute to the hard work of millions of Australians during the global financial crisis.
Julia Gillard had her own milestone, a 50th birthday.
50 feels fine, thank you very much.
In the final few months of the year, things improved a little for Julia Gillard. She turned her attention to the international stage, scored some important victories in Parliament, and Peter Slipper's defection for the Speaker's chair saw the government's numbers improve in Parliament. But an end-of-year cabinet reshuffle saw the leadership rumbling return.
Julia Gillard learned she was being kicked out of the lodge because the building was in dire need of repair.
It's a potential fire risk if not treated.
In the House of Representatives, the carbon tax finally got through.
The question is therefore resolved in the affirmative.
For the PM, kisses all round, even one from the man whose job she took last year.
An historic day for our nation and the creation of our clean energy future.
Opponents weren't so impressed.
No man yet. Democracy is dead.
The next day there was humiliation when the government couldn't muster the numbers to get its asylum seeker legislation through the lower house.
This Parliament will effectively vote no confidence in this government. That's what... Well, bring it on!
It was only made worse when cabinet discussions ended up in the press.
Cabinet meetings should be confidential.
And as the number of boat arrivals started to surge, there was no compromise, only blame.
It's a result of Mr Abbott's very reckless strategy that we will see more boats.
It is a situation entirely of the government's own making.
As the Prime Minister hosted Commonwealth leaders at Choggum, the Qantas dispute went supersonic, an entire fleet grounded and a major test for the government's industrial umpire.
The swift action the government took has brought the dispute to an end.
Why didn't she immediately terminate this dispute without reference to a tribunal, as she could have under her Fair Work Act?
And the Ombudsman fell on his sword for scripting questions for the Greens.
This was an error of judgment, and it was a mistake.
Julia Gillard was racking up the frequent flyer points, the G20 in France, APEC in Hawaii, the East Asia Summit in Bali, and a flying visit to Afghanistan.
I thought it was important to come and touch base and to see what is happening here.
An even bigger VIP revved up the troops at home.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
The presidential visit came with an announcement. American Marines will be based in Darwin from next year.
As a Pacific nation, the United States will play a larger and long-term role in shaping this region and its future.
On the domestic front, it was a month of delivery for the government. First, the carbon tax.
Today, Australia has a price on carbon as the law of our land.
And then, after a marathon debate and a late-night agreement, the mining tax passed the lower house.
The support of the Greens was bought by a secret deal that was not in the possession of the other members of Parliament.
A bigger coup came the next day with resignation of the Speaker, Harry Jenkins.
I go placidly with my humour intact. I wish you all well.
The chair was Peter Slippers for the taking, increasing Julia Gillard's buffer in the Parliament from 1 vote to 3 and leaving the opposition seething.
One of the most sordid political fixes.
Farmers were also fuming over the release of the Murray-Darling Basin draft plan.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You've got no shame, you've got no conscience.
And Wayne Swan slashed almost $7 billion to try and hit a surplus next year, albeit wafer thin. It was a colourful ALP conference.
Straight, black, white, marriage is a civil right.
Labor made it official policy to legalise gay marriage, but by giving MPs a conscience vote, made any actual changes to the law impossible, considering the coalition's position.
Marriage is between a man and a woman.
Labor changed its position on uranium exports to India after some heated debate.
Prime Minister, you are wrong.
As leadership tensions resurfaced, the sealed section of the party's election review was leaked to damage Kevin Rudd.
Do you like Kevin Rudd?
Look, Kevin Rudd and I are working together in the interests of the nation.
The PM's ministerial shake-up was seen by some as rewarding the men who helped her dislodge Kevin Rudd.
I thought we should pump up the team, and I've done that.
But if it was an attempt to shore up numbers, it backfired with more talk of cabinet divisions. The communications minister had a slip of the tongue.
But if a tax goes down, that's fucking fantastic, excuse me.
And Murray-Darling farmers got personal with the water minister.
Please, don't ruin my life.
Then, almost a year to the day since the Christmas Island shipwreck, an asylum seeker tragedy of far greater magnitude. Close to 180 people, including many children, drowned when their overloaded ship capsized in heavy seas en route to Australia. In an attempt to bring back offshore processing, the government again reached out to the opposition.
We do this for one simple reason, in the spirit of compromise.
We're ruling out supporting Malaysia, but we both agree that Nauru is important, and I say let's go forward with Nauru.
It was a tough year for the Gillard government. What will 2012 bring? Will the main players still be standing in 12 months from now? It's going to be fascinating to watch.